Hi everyone, welcome back to Practical Therapy. Hope you all are enjoying your summer. I have a topic on my mind that I've been thinking a lot about, even as it applies to me. I think a lot of you might watch this technology awareness segment and think a lot about how technology affects you. I actually originally started thinking about doing this for parenting, but as I was reflecting on it and thinking about it, I really saw a lot of self-application. So this is not going to go under marriage. This is not going to go under parenting. This is actually just going to go under just general self-care, technology awareness. And then hopefully you can use this information to have positive influence and effect on your marriages and your other relationships and on your parenting. So let's get into it. First off, I don't feel like I need to say this, but I'm just going to say it. I love technology, obviously, because it's the means that I'm using to communicate with all of you guys. I feel like we have so much beauty that comes out of this tool of technology. We get to communicate and connect with people that we love that are so far away. We get to send pictures in an instant to grandparents or aunts and uncles that can't be close. We can shop from the comfort of our couches. We can learn and educate ourselves, kind of like this video is doing through technology, but we can educate ourselves in ways that we never even dreamed possible. I mean, it's phenomenal. Technology is phenomenal. So first off, that's all I just don't want anyone to think that I'm harping on technology. But one thing I do think that is really missing from our culture is an understanding of healthy structure and boundaries around technology. And I think a lot of reason why that structure and those boundaries are lacking are because we lack an understanding of some of the negative effects. We might feel a sense of addiction, but we don't know why. Or we might see that our kids are having such a hard time making friends and meaningful relationships, but we're not sure why. We're not connecting those dots. And so hopefully the goal of today's session is to be able to talk about the negative effects of technology and what can we do with an awareness of some of these cons about technology in order to have positive impacts on our parenting and our relationships and even just on ourselves as an individual. So, my mom's calling. Probably should have put that on silent. But anyways, this is why I'm doing it live, right? This is just me being me. All right, call you back, Mom. Call her back. Okay. Anyways, so the first one we're going to talk about is the negative impact that technology, in particular social media, is having on our real in-time face-to-face relational skills. I think we've all probably been in a social situation where we looked around and we're like, ooh, why is everybody on their phones? Okay, so that's one huge impact, is the addiction piece of technology is having an impact on our ability to disconnect and be real, genuine, and connected in our real face-to-face relationship times. So that's one piece of it. Another piece is sometimes when you're removed from what you say or what you do, a comment or a statement that you make, when you're once removed from it, or you don't have to see the face of the person reading it, or you can just not hear anybody's replies and not have to put up with your rudeness that you're giving towards someone else because you're putting it out there and you're not paying attention to their response. When you're once removed away from that, it's a lot easier to make unhealthy choices there. So for example, if I got mad in a text, this has definitely happened. If I get mad in a text with my husband, I might say something in a text that I would not say to his face. And that is because we're removed from the consequences from it. We're removed from the realness of it. We're removed from their reaction and their emotions of it. And we don't have to deal with it, really, in many ways. We just don't have to deal with it. So people are putting things out there on social media that they would not say or do in person. Judging really quickly, you see something and you comment on a video that you see and you comment real quickly about, oh, that mom's a horrible mom, or oh, what kind of man would be so stupid to do something like that. Whereas if you knew that person was telling you their story, you would very likely have a completely different response. So being removed from the reality of the situation is going to make us not think twice about what we're putting out there. So also on social media, we're not thinking before we type a lot of times, or we're not thinking about the other person that we're actually talking to or commenting to or about, because we're removed from the reality of that situation, from that person. So I think that's something to be aware of, is stopping and thinking. Now, this is also, though, having an impact on kids' ability to be able to make really meaningful relationships. They're not learning how to express in healthy ways, to think before they talk. And then they're also it can get to the point where you're so maybe rude or harsh or unkind typing so often that eventually it might become more easy and natural to just say those things out loud. And so kids are writing these things. And for example, I have some teen clients where I worked with her for 1.5 years, and in the beginning she would write these things on social media that I'd be like, hey hun, let's think about that. What did you say about that? Oh, well, they don't. And she would blow it off. And she's like, well, I'd never say that to their face. And so we talked about, well, if you wouldn't say it to their face, then maybe you shouldn't write it at all. But eventually she started talking to her mom this way, ways that she 6 to 8 months ago said, oh, I'd never really say that word, or I'd really never say that out loud, or I would never, really do that in person. She started doing it in person to her mom, speaking that way and being inappropriate and disrespectful, really just in general, disrespect and unkindness and rudeness, started just being more natural to her because she was writing about it so much. And so that's there's lots of things that research has been able to start to pinpoint where are these things breaking down in our social media relationships, and how are they pouring in and affecting our real relationships. So just the way that people interact on social media is there's different rules. Well, some of us would say no, there's not different rules, but most people behave like there's different rules. And so those different rules, we get comfortable breaking some of those social boundaries and social appropriateness over the internet, and then it starts flowing into our real-time relationships. Also, the lack of ability to communicate with words, the lack of ability to be vulnerable. It doesn't take a lot of vulnerability to write something on the internet, but it takes a lot of vulnerability to say something in person. Say, for example, if you really mess up, it might be easier to shoot them a text and be like, my bad, I'm sorry, versus you got to see that person face to face and say, hey, what I did was wrong. I'm sorry about that. Can you please forgive me? That's going to require a lot more vulnerability. And that piece is missing for our kids. There's a lot of kids that are not learning how to interact. You're asking people out and you're breaking up and you're having fights and you're asking for forgiveness and you're doing all of these things that normally would require self-awareness and vulnerability and personal growth and self-confidence and esteem. All of those things would be needed to do those things in person, and there's a much lower degree of need of those types of emotional developments when you're doing these things through technology, through social media, through texting. And so our kids are missing that aspect. So what are you supposed to do about it? One research article was just saying, see where your kids are at socially and kind of get more involved in trying to help them make friends. The way that you and I made friends growing up, like knock, knock, knock on your neighbor's door. They just moved in last week and you don't know who they are. Hey, you want to come over and jump rope with me? Yeah, that's not happening so much these days. It's like, hey, you got a Facebook account? Cool. All right, I'll find you. And then they turn around, they walk away from each other, and they communicate through Facebook. So I think that it's important for parents to start fostering these relationships, these real face-to-face relationships, helping their kids grow to be aware as well about their lack of exercising vulnerability and confidence and personal face-to-face relationship skills. So if you have like a 13-year-old or 14-year-old, talking with them about, hey, these situations are going to happen to you in real life. Eventually you're going to have to deal with issues at work or with a boss, or you're going to have to address with a friend how they hurt your feelings, and I want you to be able to have those skills. So bringing to light the downfalls of technology, the relationship styles through technology, and talking about those with your kid, and talking about what things you can do to develop those, and partnering with your kid, especially if your child's older, especially if they're like 16, 15, just having a real conversation like this with them about what can we do so that you develop face-to-face personal relationship skills as well as enjoying your technology. Boundaries is huge, guys. I mean, this is going to vary from kid to kid, but there's not one client that I work with that I don't help the parent put up some type of technology structure and boundaries. Every kid needs, hey, your phone needs to be off at this time. You cannot be on your phone at this time. Okay, you can have the phone for this period, or you need to clean your room and eat dinner with your family before you can have your phone back. Things like that. Kids need to know how to put it down, let go, be away from it, and connect in real time with real people face to face. So see if you can find ways to talk with your kids, if they're older, about how to create more real face-to-face time interaction in the home and how important that is. Of course, if your kid resists, you're the parent, so you just make it happen anyways. But I always encourage teamwork first. See if your child's willing to talk with you and work with you and create a structure. If your teen is defiant and just not willing to work with you, you're the parent and you're the head of the house and you make the rules, and I encourage you to do that and to make that happen. With your younger kids, of course, there won't be conversations. It'll just be about starting out right. And I really, based off of what I'm seeing, I do not agree with, oh, hey, your kiddo, there's your smartphone, free for all, free range, there you go. I don't agree with that at all. I think technology for every kid should start with slow increments, teaching them responsibility, teaching them structures, teaching them boundaries, and as they earn that, as they develop that responsibility and that self-awareness and that technology awareness and understanding of real face-to-face social skills versus technology awareness and boundaries, as they learn that, then you can increase the time that they're allowed to have with their phone. So, for example, say you want to give your 8-year-old a phone, I would disable Wi-Fi except for, 2 hours a day when you're home and you're there and you can see what they're doing and you can make sure you're walking them through being responsible, because anything is accessible on the internet. And even with those parental privacy guidelines, lock things out, does not work. Unfortunately, does not perfectly work. Kids find their ways around it, and unfortunately I'm talking about pornography and things on YouTube that they shouldn't be watching. They are targeting kids, so they're finding ways around those privacy settings and security settings, because they're not really caring about keeping your kids out of that. They're wanting that your kids get attached to that type of stuff. So, and a very fascinating piece that I found, that I think this is important for us all to know about how technology is going to affect us and our kids. There is a dopamine response which happens with addiction when you hear your phone go off, when you see a like. They were doing brain studies on what happens when someone gets likes, follows, their phone rings, they get a text, whatever. There is a dopamine release. That's where the addiction piece comes in. When you are sitting, and you're feeling a little lonely or a little bored, and then you're like, oh my gosh, so-and-so just texted me, or oh, they liked my photo, or whatever, there's a dopamine response. I think we all kind of know that good feeling of when someone liked something you posted, or when somebody responded to something you wrote, or when someone texted you back something, or those Instagram follows and likes and all of that stuff. There's a dopamine release, and that's what creates the addiction. So the more you're craving that, you want to be self-aware of craving that and realizing that that craving's not necessarily healthy, and that it's been created. It wasn't something you were necessarily born with longing for those likes. Our kids, though, this is the world that they know, and so starting these dopamine responses to technology interaction, this is something for our kids, that this is all that they know. So we need to teach them about this stuff. So really, I want to just bring awareness to the fact that there are really different rules to how you interact with somebody like this. And this is one of the reasons why I go live too, is like I'm trying to keep it as real as possible. If you were a person sitting right here, a real person, I'd be talking about all of you just like this. Only difference is I'd probably give you a chance to talk back to me. I wouldn't just keep talking the whole time. But I think that it's important in our lives to constantly be aware of technology and make sure that we're being real, we're being authentic, we're being appropriate in the ways that we're interacting with people through technology, and we're interacting with them in a way that we would feel is appropriate, even if they were standing there right with us face to face in real time. Would we do and say and respond the same way that we're doing, and even sharing in the same way that we're sharing. So, whoa, mamas, got a major wind gust here. Anyways, that's pretty much much everything I got for you guys today. I just wanted to bring some awareness and some insight into technology, and hopefully you can run with this information and reflect on it and think about ways that you can plug this into making it so that you have just a healthier usage with technology for yourself personally and within your marriage and for your kids. Thank you, Michelle. I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and thanks for tuning in, and you guys have a great day. I'll chat with you later. Bye-bye.